the Florida State Seminoles. What
Ugh.
to expect out of them? How much pressure is on Mike Norvell this year? That's what I want to know. You go from undefeated to 2-10,
Yeah.
the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. I mean, it's literally indescribable. And I really, with the changes in personnel, have no idea what to expect. You bring in Thomas Castellanos at quarterback. You bring on Gus Malzahn, hired at offensive coordinator, which I do think is brilliant. You have 26 new players out of the transfer portal. Deuce Robinson, you bring in at wide receiver from USC. He's long, he's athletic. It reminds me of like having guys like Kelvin Benjamin catching passes for the Seminoles, right? He like kind of fits that body type, that Florida State receiver kind of aura. And that's Deuce Robinson. Squirrel White, a speedster from Tennessee. New defensive coordinator. I'm a big fan of this guy, Tony White. He comes from Nebraska. But before that, he was at Syracuse when Dino Babers was the head coach. And Tony White runs the 3-3-5. So Florida State's going to run this defense with an extra, they call it a rover defensive back. They're going to be fast on defense. They're going to bring different interesting blitzes with, they're going to be a little smaller but more athletic. That's what the 3-3-5 brings to the table. And yeah, essentially you're going to have three guys up front as far as true defensive linemen go, but you're going to be blitzing these linebackers and safeties and corners. And it's fun to watch. It's a fun defensive package to run. That's what Tony White brings to the table. Saw success as the DC at Nebraska, saw success at Syracuse, put a handful of guys in the NFL. Andre Cisco being one of them in his time at Syracuse. Fatu Melifonwu put in the NFL. Like there's some names there, right? But Florida State has a very difficult schedule. So I guess long story short, I have no idea what to think of this team.
I mean, have you ever heard the saying that once you've hit rock bottom, you can only go up?
They're not going to go 2-10.
Exactly. That's the story for me, right? It's like they hit rock bottom a year ago. They went from the highest of highs, winning the conference championship, going 13-0 in 2023. And it's like when they announced that Alabama got in over them on ESPN the following day, it was like the Thanos snap and everything changed from there on out. Yeah. They go 2-10, all of their best players left for the NFL, but they were still expected to run it back and win the conference. They wind up being an absolute joke. Just with all due respect, it was we were waiting every week. When is Florida State going to win? When is Florida State going to win? They lose to Georgia Tech in Ireland. They come home, lose to Boston College on Labor Day. Then they lost to Memphis, and then they finally beat Cal, and then the rest of the ACC beat up on them until they finally beat, I think it was like Abilene Christian in the second to last week of the season. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Take me back. We watched all those games at the Palace. I remember the Georgia Tech, the BC.
Oh my gosh. That Georgia Tech opener was special because that was like first college game day, first big game of the year, week 0. Those were
that cup of Joe hit different that morning.
Oh my
that cup of Joe hit different with college game day back.
I don't want to get sidetracked, but I'm pretty sure we like went all out for the return of like college football.
Oh, we did. We did pancakes
on the griddle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pumpkin spice protein pancakes.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, those were the days. But when I look at Florida State, it just can't be any worse than it was last year. It can't be like it was last year. That's why they were like the girl that broke up with her toxic boyfriend and chops off all of her hair. And that was me, right? I shaved my head 6 months ago, so I don't want to single out anybody. That's literally me. Like they completely overhauled both sides of the ball. They've got, I believe, the most transfers of anybody in the Power 4, if not college football as a whole. But you really hit the nail on the head. Like I really like Squirrel White. I obviously really like Deuce Robinson as well. I think you obviously said it, like a big body guy. I even think of just a couple years ago, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson. Like they really want to throw the jump balls up to these guys. There's so much unknown that it's almost impossible to not have them just be middle of the pack. I think they can go as far as Thomas Castellanos takes them. He obviously thinks he can take them to the Super Bowl, let alone the college football playoff. And I think he needs to calm down a little bit for a guy who's just okay at a place like Boston College. But if he's able to put together a solid campaign, I think that they should be a 500 or slightly above 500 team. But just to go back to it, when you said is what kind of pressure is Mike Norvell under, I think it's tremendous. I think if they finish below 500, he will not be the head coach anymore. But he's almost too expensive to get rid of. So if you're Florida State, you're in a pickle. And then you think you have this incredible home field advantage, but half the stadium's under renovation and 40,000 people can show up to any given game. So it's like nothing's going right for them. This could very easily be a season that's not as bad as it was last year in terms of embarrassment, but still bad to the point where they have to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror and say, you know what? Maybe a few more years until we join the SEC, because I think they could very easily be just as screwed as they were last year.
I'm with you. I'm with you there.